Hi everyone. So we're going to switch up the assignments on Google Classroom a little bit. So you're going to get a lesson or a video about a topic, and then you're going to have a worksheet or a Google form that you're going to fill out. But this is all a review of like key skills that you guys need for the course. Okay, so for this, we're going back to Unit 1. So if you kept an organized binder and you want to see extra examples of this, you can take a look at your 1.1 worksheet, okay, or your Unit 1 Kim sheet. All right, so we're going to go through and look at what a function is. Okay, so a function is a relation in which a set of inputs, so inputs are my x values, to a set of possible outputs, which are my y values, where each input is related to exactly one output. So each input can only have one output. Each x can only go with one y. Okay, so when we look at a graph, we look at the vertical. Let me type this instead. Maybe that's a little easier. The vertical line test, which should ring a bell for you guys. Okay, when we look at the vertical line test, we draw an imaginary line, and that should only ever hit one point at a time. Okay, so if I slide this line all the way through, right, you should be looking at this and being like, that's a parabola, that's a quadratic function. I remember that. Okay, but as I move my vertical line test to any point on this graph, it's only ever hitting at one point at a time. Okay, versus if I go over here to my non-function example, okay, you can see here that when I have my vertical line, it hits here and here. Okay, so that tells me that that is not a function. Okay, so non means not. Okay, so we do the vertical line test for when we have a graph. All right, let's go down to when we have a table. Okay, when we have a table, you want to look for any x values that go to different y values. Okay, so here I see x of 3 goes to 2, an x of 5 goes to 4, an x of 7 goes to 2, and an x of 9 goes to 4. None of those x values repeat. Okay, they don't go to any different outputs. F of x, remember, is the same thing as y. Okay, that's an output. Now if I go to my non-example, okay, I see 2 goes to 3, 4 goes to 5, but then look, 2 also goes to 7, and 4 also goes to 9. So this tells me that I have inputs that are going to different outputs. Okay, that means it is not a function. Okay, so when you have a table, you want to, let me just make the font a little smaller so it fits. You want to make sure no x values go to different y values. Right, sometimes a question might try and trick you and put like 4, 5, and then 4, 5 again. That would be okay, right? But we don't, because that's going to the same y value. You don't want different y values. And it's okay for your y values to repeat. Your y values can have different x values. That is okay. Okay. And now if I go down to my diagram, by this you just want to look at your arrows. Okay, so I see here my input and my output. So I don't want any double arrows coming from anything in my input. So I see A only goes to X, B only goes to Y, C only goes to Y, D only goes to Z. And again here, it's okay for your output to repeat. You see how there's 2 arrows going to Y, but it's 2 different inputs? That's okay for your output to repeat. But now if I go over here, January goes to 1, that's fine. But look, February is going to 2 different outputs. Okay, so that means it is not a function. All right, so here, a little note that we can take. We can say, oops, make that smaller again. Okay, only one arrow from your input to output. Right? Or you might see this described as X and Y, or your domain and range. Okay, all of those mean the same thing. Right, let's go to an example here. Okay. So here we have an example. Marcel claims that the graph below represents a function. So now I see a graph, so I want to think about my vertical line test. I want to see if this passes my vertical line test. Okay, so let me get my arrow. Okay, so let's see here. If I make my vertical line, let's see, I don't see it hit here at all. It's fine, I'm just going to drag it across. So far, so good. Oh, and then I look here. Okay, here I see these two different points. And I notice that those 2 points are closed. And if they're closed circles, that means that the answers are included. Okay, so what this is telling me right now is that the x value of 2 goes to -1 and it goes to 3. So that tells me that that is not a function and that this does not pass the vertical line test. So I'm going to respond to this prompt. I'm going to say Marcel is incorrect. Make this smaller again. I'm going to support my claim with evidence. Okay. Slide this over. Marcel is incorrect because this does not pass the vertical line test. Okay. Another example or evidence that you could use, you could say the output of 2 has 2 different, or excuse me, the input of 2 has 2 different outputs. You could say the x value of 2 repeats to 2 different y values. All of those explanations would work. Okay, but you want to be careful. You want to see if this had been an open circle and this one was closed, then it would be okay, because that would mean that that point isn't included. So when you see closed circles, that means that the point is included. Okay, hopefully this helps.